Hello and welcome to Take Time. I am your host Patrick Marlette, and let's talk about watch collecting. Today I want to have a conversation about collecting habits, so feel free to share some of your habits in the comment section down below. Now, as my habits are ever changing, I'm just going to share 3 of mine that have been making this hobby so much more rewarding. Now, the first habit I want to share is spending within your means, and I cannot stress this one enough, but honestly, every purchase I make, I buy on a budget. I don't ever make a purchase unless I know I'm buying within my means. So sticking with this idea, even though it's difficult sometimes, has made me a much better collector in that I never feel like I'm settling on a particular purchase. Which is to say, I'm always looking for the best possible purchase, even if that means I'm passing up on a lot of great deals. For instance, I just purchased, if you all watched my video on buying your first watch, you're gonna get a real kick out of this. So I just purchased a 1966 King Seiko 44-9990. This is an early Danny Seikosha dress watch. Now I know I've given dress watches a hard time in the past, but I figured if I was gonna get at least one dress watch in my collection, it had to be the King. Now I don't wanna talk too much about this piece now. I have been doing a lot of research on King Seiko, and this particular model really appealed to me, especially the mid to late end model years. But to illustrate my point, I let a ton of offers on this particular model pass. I mean, a lot. But within those 2 months of just monitoring the 44-9990, I saw where the prices ranged, how the market value changed, what people perceived was a good value for this piece, and that ultimately led me to make a smart purchase. And I found a killer deal on my King Seiko. Again, it took a lot of time and a lot of research. Again, I saw at least 8 listings that I wanted to buy of really great examples, some ranging from $800 to $900, some less than what I paid for. But I think I found a really great deal on this watch head, not original strap, but yes, original buckle, from a great vendor over on eBay. And this all came about because I told myself I was not going to spend any more than X amount on this piece. So again, guys, do budget when you're making these purchases because it will make you a smarter buyer. The next habit I have been practicing is diversifying. So it is important to try new things. Now, how else are you going to know if you're going to enjoy a piece unless you try it on? And this practice can be applied to anything, but particularly as it pertains to watches, I found myself avoiding quartz-based timepieces. And now I'm pushing myself towards making more quartz watch purchases. I have nearly always purchased mechanical watches, and a lot of times companies will sell variants of the same case, but with like a quartz-based movement and a mechanical movement that's always a large sum more than the quartz-based item. And I always try to go for that one. And beyond that example, there are a ton of quartz-based complications that I've just simply been avoiding for the simple fact that the watch is battery powered. Now, personally, I don't know why I have this hang up. I know a lot of folks in the collecting world have the same problem, and I'd love to hear your comments down below as to why you personally avoid quartz watches. But I think this stigma is generally unwarranted. I feel like quartz watches get an unnecessarily bad reputation, and that's a part of my collecting habit that I am trying to change. So I used to own a Victorinox Enox Carbon Edition, and that used a quartz-based movement. And that thing was a tank. It was absolutely wonderful. It wore very well. It was light, durable, extremely aesthetically pleasing. And the only reason I sold it is because for a time I had to consistently turn watches over to get content for YouTube. Such is not the case now, thankfully, and I can experience a ton of different watches on my budget, but that's one of those things I regret selling. I really do miss that piece. So I know personally I'm going to start inviting more quartz watches into my collection, and I've actually just put out a few offers on a few different quartz items that I've been looking to get, both vintage and modern. Let me know your thoughts on quartz watches down below. I'd love to hear why you do buy them, why you don't buy them, any of those thoughts down below. Third and lastly, buying within a theme. I've just started buying within a theme over the last 3 months, and it has made this hobby so much more satisfying. It is so much more gratifying when you put a new watch in your collection that was meaningfully selected as opposed to something that was just impulsively purchased. And those purchases can be gratifying for a time, but when you have something pictured in your mind that you know you have to add to your collection that fits within whatever that theme is, it is so much more rewarding. Now, this theme may vary between you and myself, but whatever it is, try to stick with it. So recently I have been collecting vintage Seiko, a lot of vintage Seiko, and I have been just analyzing the market, seeing particular pieces that I want, and just waiting to pounce on the right purchase. And vintage Seiko might not be for you, so whatever your theme is, I highly recommend you stick with it. Be it vintage dive watches, be it quirky modern chronographs, whatever your thing is, just go for it. So I have been purchasing impulsively for such a long time, and I found myself buying and reselling and buying and reselling because ultimately those weren't items I wanted. Yes, I was very interested in them at the moment, but when you get it in and you see it amongst your collection, things just don't feel right having that piece there. I had up until this point been purchasing impulsively on almost 90% of all of my collection, and while a few pieces stuck, one in particular being my Omega Dynamic, a lot of them didn't. And it's just frustrating having to buy and resell just to have that money back in the market to make another purchase that you want to add to your collection. I found that sticking within a concrete theme has made this so much easier for me as a collector. I'm not, eyeing every single listing I see pop up on a forum or every single thing that's on my watch list on eBay. There's just a few key things I'm looking to add to my collection, and when they do pop up, I'll see if it's a good price, buying within my means. Does it add anything interesting to the mix, diversifying my collection? And ultimately, will adding this to my collection fit well within my theme and be satisfying? And 9 times out of 10, when I've purchased this way, it definitely has. Right now, I'm wearing an awesome example of a 4006 6027 Seiko Bellmatic, and this little chiclet style case was something I've never had. I've never had an alarm watch, and it fit well within my theme, that is vintage Seiko, buying from my favorite brand. So there's so many boxes that were just checked on this purchase. And again, it was something I'd never experienced. And again, I didn't know if I was going to like it until I did, and I love it. This is honestly, between all of my watches, even my Grand Seiko, this is by far my favorite watch. And I'm so glad I took the plunge in getting this, because I always thought this look was just quirky and kind of dumb. But on the wrist, it's just such an amazing experience. And again, immensely gratifying, because it is perfectly within that theme I mentioned. So again, my 3 major suggestions for a more healthy collecting habit would be to buy within your own means, always diversify, look to try to diversify your collection, and especially buy within a theme. And if there are collecting habits that you would like to share, things that have made this watch hobby a far better experience for you, feel free to share them down below and let's have that conversation. Guys, if you like this video, feel free to hit that like button. If you found this video insightful or entertaining in the least, feel free to share this with any friends, forums, or groups you follow. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, feel free to do that. I put out videos twice a week, sometimes 3 times if I'm shooting a vlog. We'll see how that works out in the future, but 2 to 3 times a week, there's awesome watch content for you. So if you enjoy this kind of stuff, it's here. Again, my name is Patrick Marlette, and thank you for the time.